Mehmet Oz, the doctor on the Dr. Oz show, once said that genetics load the gun and your lifestyle pulls the trigger. I want whoever's watching this to think about that and how that pertains to you, how it pertains to maybe your family, your friends, your significant other maybe, and just the people around you see every day. And the reason why I'm using this quote is because within the last year and a half, a team in London, England, was approved for using the CRISPR technique. And this technique pretty much states that we're allowed to go in and alter genes of babies before they're born. And I am not against this totally, but do I believe that we should be able to do this? I definitely do not agree that we should be able to do this. It's a belief that I've had for a while, ever since I read this, and it's been pondering on my mind because as a human race, we're different from one another. And if we should be able to have the ability to change someone's genes to make people more alike, to make people have a certain athletic ability, maybe intellectual ability, or even live longer. There's opinions against me that people may have, and I agree with you. You have strong points with them, but I totally do not agree that we should be able to change people's genes before they're born. And my first point that I'd like to hit on is just humanism and what we are as a human race. Not everybody's the same person. I don't think I've met anyone that's exactly like me. And I feel like if we start to use this CRISPR technique, that we're going to start to find people that may have different lifestyles, going back to the quote from Dr. Oz, but genetics are going to be the same. And a source that I would like to use to help me just further my point is from David Stern in the Johns Hopkins University Press in 2008. He states that humanism is the passion that animates authentic professionalism. During this article, he was talking about how humanism and professionalism was totally different. But the quote I like to really use from this is that humanism is a way of being. Sure, lifestyle is going to change a different person's way of being and how they live, but if we use genetics to guide our lifestyle, if people are smarter, more intellectual, if they're living longer, that's great. But humans are all different, and that's what makes us unique. I've never really thought about this until now, but I like that I'm different than other people. I like that I don't have to meet myself in another person's body because we have the same genes. That's just something that's totally unique to our planet and our human race, which I really haven't thought about until now. But moving on from that, I understand that there's arguments against me, like I stated before, and going into someone's genes and altering their genetic code to make them live longer. I totally agree with that. Would be great. I would love that. But the article that I'd like to use to further this point along is that stated by Jason Wood from the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science in the USA, Volume 13, 2016. He pretty much states in a study used to study fruit flies and how 75% of their genes are completely the same as humans, which is kind of crazy to think about as a fruit fly, but he goes on to say that this study that he uses provides evidence that the breakdown of a certain gene, silencing and repression, may be a contributing factor to aging. So he goes on to say that if we're able to change this certain gene, that people are going to live longer. We're going to have more fruitful lives. We're going to be able to do more. But as a human race, I totally agree. I would love to live longer. I get it. Some people only live to be 68. Some people live to be 110. It's luck of the draw, I guess. And that's part of being a human. We're not always sure what's going to go on, and that's, you just got to keep going with what you're given and just make the best out of the situation that you have and take everything that you get and just keep rolling with it. But the final point that I'd like to make is, as an individual, and going off of more of the humanism point that I made earlier, being an individual for me personally is something that I really didn't think about until I started to research this for this for this speech. But Maria Soleto, she's a psychologist from Europe, in Volume 8 of the European Psychologist in June 2003. She states that individualism as a cultural factor during this study that she was doing, grouped with other factors such as collectivism as being part of a group. It emphasizes the dependence of an individual. And what this means, but what she's saying is, I'm totally different in a group than the person next to me. And I'm not independent from the next person because maybe they have something genetically that I don't have. And I lean on someone else because I'm not perfect. And that's what being a human is. You're not going to be perfect. We don't think of ourselves as being completely perfect. And if we use this technique to alter genes and make people more of the same, maybe we're going to become more of a perfect human race. And that would be great. But going off of my first and last point that I just made, humanism and individualism are two things that are unique to me and you and everyone around us. And if we become more of the same person as a human race, as friends, as family, that's just not going to distinct one another from me, from my brother, from you, whoever may be watching this, and whoever you might see in the world. And that's what makes us unique. That's what makes us us. And if you take that away from a human, then, or just, if you take your individualism away from yourself and you're not unique anymore, then how can you differentiate yourself from somebody else? And, those three reasons, humanism, individualism, or those two main reasons, is exactly why I don't believe that using this CRISPR technique to alter genes is something that I believe in.